In the middle of Lavender Hill, on the Cape Flats, stands a derelict field. Surrounded by three of the area's most violent gangs, the Mongrels, the Corner Boys, and the Fast Guns, it has been the site of deadly turf wars. It has earned the nickname of the battlefield.
They shoot while kids are playing around them, they actually don't care.
Over the years, hundreds of innocents, mainly children, have been gunned down in the crossfire.
We've got more children at bodies laying in the streets than we have adults. And that's the saddest part of it all.
And these children daily is witnessing these killings. And you see these kids, they're looking up to us and we can't offer them no haven.
But the battlefield could become a place of healing and hope.
At the moment, our children are being held captive in their own backyards even. But definitely having this safe space as a Rise Above Centre, we will definitely be able to work towards having all of this gangsterism, the drug abuse, and that eradicated in Lavender Hill.
And we have the manpower, we have the kids believing in it. We just need the support.
I'm standing in Bloat Street, Lavender Hill. You spell it B-L-O-D-E, but it might just as well be called Bloedstraat, because these streets are steeped in the blood of the community and especially the children. In Lavender Hill, there's no such thing as being traumatized anymore. Everyone is traumatized because trauma has been normalized through the generations. It has become a part of life.
It's normalized, yes, and in a sense it becomes a cycle that the friends of the murdered guy, they become gangsters. They basically, the opposition gang comes to them and actually tells them, look here, they've killed your friend. Here's a gun, you need to go and sort them out. And that is basically the sad part of it, because while our kids grow up in trauma, we're losing a lot of people. For me, it's becoming like a genocide.
Friday, December the 13th in Lavender Hill. The night before, two young men had been gunned down, 21-year-old Keegan Timmy and 20-year-old Lincoln Gates.
Our under-16 boys, Keegan was a friend of theirs, and I know for a fact that Keegan was a boy that is an hour before his death. He still had posted a photo on Facebook telling his Facebook friend that his baby is his whole world, and then he passed away.
Lincoln Gates also leaves behind devastated parents and his pregnant teenage girlfriend, Michaela Overmeyer. How many months pregnant are you?
6 months.
So all these kids are at that stage now where this is just a normal for them. The trauma only stays for that moment, and it just kicks in after a while when they really feel the need to cry.
Another generation yet to be born, already damaged by the relentless carnage.
Most of the kids that you see sitting there, they belong to our sports club as well. Some of them are netballers, there's a few footballers also there. So they just painted the names of the two boys that has been shot.
The problem is that the kids is at school, but when they leave school, after school, when they come home, there's nothing here. That balance is out of context. You can't have school have some programs and then they come home weekends and there's nothing. And the weekends is really the time that we need to engage with the kids. We need to keep them busy. And this community weekends has nothing but just the social ills.
Ralph Bowers, otherwise known to Lavender Hill as Zaza, and soccer coach Mark Nicholson have lived in Lavender Hill all their lives. They are widely respected and they are determined to transform the lives of the community, especially the children.
I grew up in Lavender Hill, very impoverished, but luckily I got a scholarship from the Queen Elizabeth Coronation Bursary to go study and then become an optician. I've been to England for 13 years, 2005. When I came back, there was nothing in place for the youth. Now there's absolutely nothing but just pain.
I'm a priest in the New Apostolic Church. I came from a life of drugs.
In 2000, Mark turned his life around. He became a soccer coach and established the Lavender Hill Sports Club.
We started with the nephews and the nieces. We played soccer on the very field. There was nothing here.
Mr. Nicholson has a sports club, and he's got over 200 of these youngsters registered, giving them an opportunity, an alternative like soccer and the netball and the longboard. And then we have boxing and we have ballet and we have drumline. We have no support to keep those kids safe and to give them an alternative.
These children look up to us because there's nobody else that is there to care. We know each of these children by name. We know their parents. We know what's going on in their homes, and that is where it starts. It starts with us.
Now it's more about the safe space, because you can give them all the basic needs that you can offer them, but tomorrow they're going to still be in the same square.
On Saturday, December the 21st, during school holidays, the Lavender Hill Soccer Club and Ralph's non-profit organisation called the Guardians of the National Treasure, assisted by the German Freaks Car Club, the Lions Club and the Cape Flats Development Association, or CAFTA, held a junior awards event for the children's soccer and netball teams.
It was an amazing event. We had a junior football presentation on Saturday, and we actually motivated and spoke to the kids a lot about the things happening within Lavendale and how they need to keep themselves safe and how they need to tell their parents to also look after them.
Through the sport, we are now targeting, CAFTA is targeting them at a younger age, and we catch them at school level, before they become a gangster, because once they're a gangster already, it's very difficult to change that mindset.
The event also provided an opportunity to educate the children on the scourge of gender-based violence. But because it was too dangerous to be held outdoors in Lavender Hill, it took place several kilometers away in Zandvlei in Muizenberg.
The awards day, I've actually identified the 3 boys which is within our club. They are 2 of them is under 16 and then 1 is an under 14 boy.
One of the young boys who received an award was Mark's adopted son, Don De Vie.
He's been with me, he's been my right-hand man in the community outreach that I do. He's the one making the party packs, he's the one dishing out the soup to the kids, you know. He's always there when I need him, and I need to acknowledge them also as to what they're doing, because I can already see that they are the future of the Lavendale Sports Club. When we acknowledge them, then we actually motivate the others to do better, and that is our purpose here. We want these kids to be the best that they can be.
But the under-16 team could not attend because they had to go to the funeral of Keegan Timmy, killed the week before. Then, a cruel, ironic twist of fate. Shortly after the police and the community leaders were assuring the children in Zandvlei about their safety, another tragedy was unfolding in Lavender Hill. At about 2 p.m, 2 gunmen burst into a home in Drury Court in pursuit of a rival gangster. 5-year-old Valentino Kruiteke and his 2-year-old brother were in the yard. After the first gunman shot the rival gang member, the second gunman shot Valentino in the back of his head. The 5-year-old had pushed his younger brother to the ground, shielding him from the bullets. He died instantly.
I just broke down and I ran into the backyard, and then I saw little Valentino laying there in a pool of his own blood.
The week before, Mark had invited Valentino to the Lavender Hill Sports Club Christmas party. In August 2019, 6-year-old Natalia Pinar had met the same fate. The 6-year-old was shot in the head by a stray bullet outside her Lavender Hill home, another child casualty in this brutal, unrelenting gang war.
It actually destroyed me. The fact that in this year, again, Natalia was also shot, the 6-year-old girlie was shot. Also, it broke my soul into pieces. I also questioned a lot of things.
Five-year-old Valentino Kruiteke was killed on the day that assassinated hard-living gang leader Rashid Stachy received a hero send-off. Stachy was one of the last remaining gang bosses of his generation. By his own admission, he had been one of the main culprits responsible for flooding the Cape Flats with drugs and violence. devastating a generation already dispossessed by the forced removals of apartheid and potentially destroying generations to come.
At this time, we are now dealing with the third generation of gangsterism. We did the grandfather 30 years ago, 20 years ago it was the dad, and now we have the 15-year-old.
We visited Valentino's parents, Romana Grooteki and Patrick Kotzer, their 2-year-old son and their baby. What went through your mind when you heard the gunshots and you saw your son?
It made me mad. It made me so crazy about it. I felt like I couldn't go after them. But I said to myself, what is the use of going after them if I have to take care of Valentino? It feels like a pain for me will never go away. I have to be strong for the other 2 children of mine.
You have lived in this neighborhood and so many mothers have lost their children. Did you ever imagine that this would be what would happen to you and your Tino?
I never expected this. It isn't a place for any young child who's living here around. But because your child is not even safe in the road. From now on, your child won't be safe in the yard. Now you let the child play in the park. The gang violence start shooting over each other. Suddenly you hear your child has been shot. Now you go told thee. You never had a chance to talk to your son or to your daughter. To say the final goodbye. The time you came there, your son is gone or your daughter is gone. You will never have the chance to say to your child you love them.
I first visited the Blode Street field in 2012 when yet another ceasefire between the warring gangs was being brokered by gang generals, so-called ex-gangsters, faith-based organizations and a profoundly wounded community.
If it comes to saving our community.
In December 2019, I was introduced to Mark and Ralph by Brenton Geach, a photojournalist who for years has been documenting struggling Cape Flats communities. As we revisited the killing fields, the deterioration was evident. Once a wetland irrigated by an underground aquifer with netball fields and an evergreen soccer pitch, the space is now arid and vandalized. And each time children play here or even attempt to cross, they are putting their lives in peril. But play they do because there's nowhere else to go.
It's sad to see how the area is deteriorated. It's instead of getting better, it became worse. Your gangsters are getting younger. Your drug abuse, your women and children abuse, your alcohol abuse, it's just escalated.
The spike in gang violence over the past few months has resulted in the closure of afternoon care for children. Social, health and municipal services have also shut down.
For the year 2019, the deaths in Lavender was 40, for the whole year was 47. As the festive season arrived, we saw an increase in socialization, of course, and gang activity.
In August 2019, Operation Lockdown deployed the army into the Cape Flats to quell the violence. It focused on 10 hotspots, but Lavender Hill was excluded. That changed with the death of Valentino Grooteki. 2 suspects were arrested, and both the army and police now conduct patrols.
Unfortunately, it was responding to the death of this boy Valentino Grooteki. And I would concur with you, I would really agree that it should have been far more proactive.
What they're doing, they're reacting onto a gunshot and then pick up the body and they leave. They're not looking at the component where you have the healing component of communities.
Absolutely. But Ralph and Mark have a community vision to transform the battlefield into a multi-purpose sports and recreation hub. Through his non-profit organization, the Guardians of the National Treasure, Ralph has succeeded in securing seed money from a United Kingdom-based organization called In Place of War.
They are an international organisation that goes to communities like Lavendale that is riddled with gangsterism and violence. So they've partnered with us and we've approached the city of Cape Town to say, look, we want to take this space and turn this space into a healing space, a sanctuary, a safe space, so that we can plug those youngsters into programs, whether it is sport or arts and culture.
If this field is enclosed and we have got the enclosed space that we can work with, then we will be able to guide these children, to motivate them. We will work in a 5-year plan so that we know in the next 5 years these kids wouldn't even think of belonging or wanting to be part of a gang.
We've been liaising with the community, so we've been setting up a community organisation with different members of the community along with In Place of War that can be the guardian of the new space. We've been working with architects to design amazing plans for this really incredible space, and the idea of the space is that it will be a music studio, it will be a sports centre, it will have a massive performance space, it will have storage space for all of the sports equipment that's being used.
The space will be closed, then we'll have 2 big soccer fields, we'll have the youth cafe, we'll offer space for Mr. Nicholson and space where you can store the equipment. We would like to have then the community police forum. Their whole office is based on the premises, so the community can go to the offices and seek assistance.
We've also fundraised, so we've got money to support we've got funding to support the build of the space, and we're also trying to work with the local Cape Town government to have permission to build the space, and that's where we're at the moment.
The field is owned by the City of Cape Town, but the custodian of city land is the Property Management Department, and the land ultimately falls both under the city's Department of Sports and Recreation and the province's Department of Cultural Affairs and Sport.
I hope the city can come to the table and say, let's look at what you have, let's put things in place for you, for these children, so that we can have a better 9-year-old when he's 18, 10 years down the line. There's a boarded support planned with the city, partnering with us. So I hope for that, because obviously without the city this will be a difficult and tough call, but together we can make it better.
Ralph says the project was first presented to the city about 18 months ago, but since then there has been no progress. What has prevented the city from just getting the ball rolling?
I just don't know. We're hoping that we had a meeting with the city, Sub-Council 18, we had a meeting with the mayoral committee, and they're still deciding on what the outcome would be. In the meantime, our children is dying, our children is being shot, so it's very difficult for us and we don't know where this is going.
December 2019, and the City of Cape Town has spent millions lighting the streets for the festive season. But for many of the children in Lavender Hill and other struggling communities, it would be a bleak Christmas were it not for the generosity of organisations like the Guardians of the National Treasure, CAFTA and the Lions Club. They have prepared a Christmas feast for 1,000 children in Lavender Hill to fill hungry stomachs and to warm young hearts.
Stay safe. That's all I'm asking. And remember who is special. Who's special? Okay?
People in Lavender Hill are very isolated. I really want to change that and shine a spotlight on Lavender Hill and have people from all over the world go into the community to meet people in the community, to collaborate with them, to work together, and really to show that Lavender Hill is not a place to be afraid of. It's a place with absolutely brilliant, wonderful people who are really dedicated to making change.
Despite the hardships, this is a resilient community, a community of activists, visionaries and builders of dreams. Builders who now have the bricks of an organisation that has helped nurture creativity in 24 conflict-riddled spaces worldwide. All that is needed is the mortar of government to cement it. But it seems government is stuck behind a wall constructed of red tape.
So there has been a delay in the build of the project, and this is down to us really coming against a brick wall in terms of getting permission to build the space.
Is the city on board or not? The community and funders deserve an answer. My first port of call is Councillor Marita Peterson, who has been the ward councillor for Lavender Hill since 2012.
We had the site visit. We came out to check out the ground when I had Alderman Grant Twig here. Councillors fully supported the presentation. We came to a conclusion that we need the project proposal needs to be in writing. Because you've got the project, this is what you want to do, but now you need to have a formal proposal. And then with that proposal is the city expected to be funding long term? Who's going to be the partners in terms of sustaining the project over time? Right. So those needs to be put in writing.
We continue to work with our networks and support them however we can. But we would really like local partners and stakeholders to come in and get involved in terms of supporting and funding the space in the long term. The funding so far has entirely come from outside of South Africa.
I then meet with Dr. Zahid Badruddin, the City Councillor for Community Services and Health. He also liaises with the provincial government on safety, sports and recreation.
Safety is not enough to address on its own. We've got to be able to provide community facilities, services for especially poor communities to be able to access for alternative means of recreation.
One of the reasons that the city might be dragging its feet with this project is because previous investments in the area have failed.
The Sea Winds Park, where we've invested 7.6 million rand in a smart park that was basically stripped of all of its assets in under 1.5 years.
The problem there is that you cannot build a house and there's nobody to move into the house. There was no clubs. There was nothing existing to say they're going to go move in there and occupy the space and manage the space. We now have 12 soccer clubs. We have about 9 netball teams. We have ballet. We have drumline. We have the boxing. We have those clubs already waiting to move into the battlefield Blood Street. I can assure you, with all the members that we have, we're almost 1,000 youth strong in terms of the clubs that we have. We'll be home there, that will be our space where we operate from. That's where we will be strategizing and meeting to empower our youth.
So there is an option that we're exploring, which is about actually buying a space in Lavender Hill, an existing building that we can repurpose as a cultural space, as a kind of interim solution. It's not ideal if this will cost us money and we'll then have to fundraise again to build. The only other option is that we would have to return the funding that we have to the global supporters of this project, which again would be a real shame, given that, you know, the funding is there, the will of the community is to create the space.
I can assure you that whatever funds is needed from water allocations, I will surely support whatever funding it is. I will contribute towards the project once it's realized. And I can tell you, I'm not wondering about it. It will be realized because it's an amazing project.
But it is not just the city that needs to commit for this project to take off. The province needs to get on board as well.
And I can say it very, very seriously that we will partner with any partner on the ground in communities, and this specific project we will partner with. And you must come down and come and do a program, a follow-up program, to see how far we are with it.
Thank you so much, Minister.
I make the commitment now to bring all of the role players together.
The Lavender Hill battlefield could become a model for other struggling communities along the Cape Flats. Or it could become yet another example of defeated dreams in communities where the pot of gold at the end of the Rainbow Nation remains empty.
I wake up in the morning and I go through the community and I see the children's faces and they remind me they're going to come play soccer, they're going to come play netball, they want to register. They keep on reminding me that that's the bit of hope that they have, so I cannot give up.
If they enclose this field for us and they give us this space, then we will work with it and we will actually self-sustain this field so that we can become even to all the children in Lavender Hill.